Be very welcome here. Super happy to celebrate together this change. My name is Anaí Beatriz Pacheco, connecting from Transition Network International and Chile, part of the Cultural Transformation Circle. And I'm super happy today to share with you and go deep in whatever questions you have about this organizational change we have been having the last months, maybe year. And one thing that I was just sharing before is that I am aware on group dynamics and how challenging is to go through what we have gone as a movement that has transformed us in this 3.0 shared governance version. And yeah, I'm happy and in peace today. And I wish that many organizations aligned with our values find a way to transform and keep doing the work we're doing together today that is so important. So I would like to open this round and to listen to your questions so we can focus the conversation in your specific needs. So I open the voice, and Deborah, if you want also to introduce the moment.
Hello. Lovely to have you both here today, and lovely to have anyone else watching later, catching up on this conversation. We have three of us here today from Transition Network International, Anaí, myself, and Esther. Esther representing communications, which she can say a bit more about herself in a minute. I'm currently one of the co-lead links of Transition Network International, and I've been one of the main people involved in stewarding the strategy and restructure process over the last year. So we did a lot of listening within the international system, the Hub's Heart Circle and TN International and the trustees of the UK-based legal entity, the charity, and just listening to, what were the tensions and what were the areas where people felt like frustrated and they wanted to move more and deliver more and be more in service, and what was holding us back, what were the blocks. And we were listening to the movement, and we were looking at evaluation work we've done in the past and seeing what people were saying about how the movement is shifting and changing. And we were talking to some of the hubs during the self-assessment process. And all of this has informed this kind of restructure and a 3-year strategy that we've created. And that's also helping us with our fundraising. And we've got some very positive news about our next 3 years of funding for TN International. It's looking hopeful. So we're celebrating being on the other side of this big restructure and refocusing and revisioning. And we know that we have still more work to do in terms of engagement with all of you. And we hope this is one step towards that. So that's me. And I'll just see if Esther wants to add anything before we start collecting questions and topics to discuss.
Thank you, Debs. Well, I can say that I've been involved in transition for over the last 8 years, first in the Spanish Hub, and then in the Inner Transition Circle, now Cultural Transformation Circle, also in evolution with the systemic changes. And more recently, I've been supporting with comms in the more general aspects, like as a comms lead link. And I'm here because it felt really important to be present with this big step moving forward and the changes. And I feel I'm here as a support role and wanting to listen and also celebrate together this collective evolution. So yeah, that's me. Thank you so much.
Great, girls. Well, I've been in transition for 16 years, since 2009, 16, 15. And it's so good to see things evolving. This is what I like most in transition. It's the ability to change and to adapt and to create new ways of doing stuff. So it's really amazing. I really like the Transition Network International. I can remember these questions back ago. People talking about this. And I Well, this is for the Brazilian hub right now, because it's me and Melissa. We are the chairs of Transition, the Brazilian hub. So I would like to understand all these papers. If you are in the hub and you are going to participate in the other circles, is this close to people that are in the hubs, or is this open to people from abroad the movement? Things like so many things. Well, I think I will have more questions when we begin to use all this new structure, because I only learn when I use. I don't learn if I only read and see. Yeah. I need to see the action. And I will pass to Melissa. Tell me, my dear.
Well, first, I want to celebrate these changes. I think it feels like we are going to a new round in the, in our evolutionary process. Yeah, yeah.
I wrote.
It feels like that. It's my feeling. It's like similar to Isa. I feel like we are going to start to use, and then we are going to learn better about the process. But some objective topics I would like to bring, just to understand a little bit more. I'm looking here at that picture with the circles and everything. And there is a circle called engagement. And I was very curious about this. It is a circle, or it is a strategy of engagement? What it means exactly? This is something that I would like to understand. And the TNI infrastructure, what it means too, if it is a circle or if it is also a strategy. Those are things that like, yes, that picture.
Okay, thanks for your reflections and questions. I can have a go at starting to answer those, and I'll also welcome Anaï and Esther to join in.
Please, Deb, speak more slowly.
Slowly, okay.
So fast.
I'm just adjusting on my screen so I can keep, I just made some notes of your questions so I can keep them in my vision. Yes, so I'm so glad that that we're all celebrating this evolutionary change and this the recognition of being the international system that we really are. I think we were starting to feel like, as we distributed power and leadership and decision-making to the Hub's Heart Circle, we started to end up with this international system that had two heads, and then there was too much time spent with the heads talking to each other. And we thought, okay, we need to be one organism, but an organism that has evolved to meet the times and the movement in a more international way. So it feels so great to me, this new organization represented by this diagram. I feel like our meetings are shorter and more efficient. Our delivery work is really speeding up. We have momentum and joy in our work again, and there's so much less frustration and so much less time spent in meetings and communication between meetings, and more time on delivery and outward facing work. And of course, we still have lots of capacity issues because we're all still part-time. But it does feel better than it did. And I'm enjoying that sense of flow. This organizational diagram is likely to evolve further. I mean, so on the left hand, would you screen share it again, Anaï? And then I can talk through it while still looking at lovely faces. So I was one of the people that started to draw this out and sort of consult with other people in the kind of widest team. So Hub's Heart Circle trustees, TN staff, and Hub's links, and sort of trying to look at this and say, could something like this work? Would this be more efficient and more collaborative and like the next evolution? And I feel like the left-hand side so the center is like is the core circle, right? So that's in sociocracy, it's where the lead links of each other circle sit together to exchange information and see if anything that the work circles are doing is attention for someone else in a different circle, or if there's an unexpressed potential. So it's where everyone comes together to share updates and sort out the next steps and then go back to their working circles. So all those circles you see on the left are working circles. So that's to start answering the question that both of you asked. The learning and practicing circle is very much where we do creation or sourcing and sharing of resources. It's where the practicing transition campaign sits. It's where the training support circle and the link to the trainers community of practice sits. So it's kind of everything to do with learning, practicing, educating, training. Any roles that we take in the wider movement around that come from there. And that includes us listening to what's in the movement already in terms of resources and training, and trying to make that more visible and accessible to other parts of the movement. So we can also be like a curator of some kind. The Cultural Transformation Circle, I'll have Anaï and maybe Esther speak to more, but it's our circle that are holding the energy and the events and the directions around inner transition, which we now recognize more as cultural transformation, which I think probably the two of you are very familiar with anyway. But looking at transformation at the individual, social and system and worldview level. And that's always been very strong in transition from the beginning, as you know, that we recognize the need for that as well as outer practical action. Communication and digital infrastructure is a circle. It has, you know, each of these are a circle that have a team of people and a lead link that sits. So infrastructure is comms and digital infrastructure is our website, our storytelling, our social media, and all of the things we do to sort of make the work of the movement visible and to make our work visible. And infrastructure is basically all of the things that we need to run a legal entity that exists in the world. So it's where the strategy and the finance happens. It's where the human resources or human relationships, whichever way you want to call it, it's where contracts and staffing and salaries happen. It's where fundraising happens. It's where administration and compliance with the laws of charities and non-profits happen. So it's where all the office functions happen that make it possible for us to have a legal entity that can receive funds, that can employ people, staff and freelancers, that can fundraise, that can redistribute money to the movement. And that, so that's kind of the very much the kind of operational back office type things. And then going up to engagement, this is a circle, small circle at the moment, that, so basically all the rest of these are our areas of delivery work. Infrastructure is making sure we're a legal entity, and everything else are main areas of delivery work. Communications and storytelling and the platform so people can relate with each other. Cultural transformation, because it's such a core aim of transition in the world. Learning and practicing, because we're here to help everyone learn and practice transition. And then engagement, because we're here to support the hubs in whatever they're doing and to support local groups that don't have a hub. So this is where we have a team of people that are consciously thinking about how do we support the hubs better? How do we support the local groups to get on the map if they don't have a hub and if they need support starting? How do we, what are the ways that we can improve engagement and understand what the hubs and local groups are doing and help them meet their agenda and strategies and so on? Like, what can we do to be in relationship with the rest of the movement? And we just felt that that had been not so strong in recent years, and we recognized that, and we thought we need a circle and people that have roles within that to actually show that this is really high priority to rebuild these ropes of connection. So that's the circle that have been holding the hub's self-assessment process. It's the circle that will be kind of making sure that you know, the hub's links are well connected in with things, that there's links from TN International going to hub's events and hub's assembly, and making sure that hub's gatherings are happening in whatever way we can support that, not necessarily leading that, but, you know, what can we do to support that? If the hubs want to have a gathering, do we need to find funding or offer some kind of back office support to those things? You know, so all of these things to do with the hubs and local groups. And it might be at some point that that's also about partnerships with aligned groups as well. At the moment, the collaborations role sits in the core circle, but it could also equally well sit in the engagement circle. So they're all circles, to answer that one question, with their own aim and domain, with their own people, with their own meetings, and with their own strategic objectives that all together make the strategic objectives of the whole organization. This stuff on the right-hand side, which is more complicated and organic looking, some of this is still evolving. So there's a hubs group, as we know, and it's recently refreshed with the hubs self-assessment process. And everyone has nominated their 2 hubs reps to be in the hubs assembly. And soon, I believe, the hubs assembly will meet to elect the 2 new reps for the coming years. So the coming year, at least, I think November the 19th, there will be this election. And just yesterday, TNI elected our 2 reps from the support organization to come to that election. So we have our reps to come to that. And yeah, I guess we are open to how this will evolve and what the hubs group and the hubs assembly want to do in terms of their activities and when they meet and how often. But what we have imagined in terms of relationship with TNI is that there will still be the 2 hubs reps elected by the hubs assembly. And we thought we had a long conversation about, is it best for those 2 reps to engage directly with the core circle or with the engagement circle? And we felt that if they were engaging with the core circle, there would be a lot of irrelevant information that might be wasting people's time, you know, too much operational, back office, charitable conversations, and not as much about how do we actually engage with and support the movement. So we thought, okay, maybe the engagement circle is the right place for those conversations. And then those 2 systems, the hubs group or the hubs assembly and the engagement circle, can kind of co-create how they want to be in relationship with each other. The other thing we've done is we've drawn the hubs and territories group on this wider circle. Do you see this consultation circle? And what we've designed is a strategy process that happens twice a year, where everyone that's within the circle, but also everyone that sits on the circle, has the opportunity to be engaged in Transition Network International strategy development and strategy review. So what we're hoping is that, because this used to be like TN would have strategy meetings on its own with its trustees, and the Hubs Heart Circle would have some strategy meetings, and then we were like, oh, that doesn't make sense. So then we started having TN and Hubs Heart Circle strategy meetings together, and then the trustees felt a bit like, hang on, we need to be involved. And now we're like, okay, our strategy meetings need to include all the people involved in running the organization and people that are involved in being in our wider system. So we're hoping that some of the hubs reps and other hubsters, or even people from local groups, might come to some sessions of strategy development and input, you know, like say, this is what we see happening in the world. This is what we think TNI as a support entity, support organization could be doing different or better or more or less. So we're trying to build in more opportunities for relationship building and feedback loops. And we also recognize, as you'll see over on the left, that sometimes we're going to want to invite partners and aligned organizations or critical friends or funders to these strategy consultations as well, which are things we've done in the past. And we just wanted to make it, you know, visible that that's important. So that's to answer some of the circles. There's more I could say about this right-hand side with the purpose circle and the elders group and things like that, but I'll pause there for a minute to see if I at least answered the 2 questions about engagement and infrastructure and some of the ways that hubs and territories and local groups might be able to be in relationship and feedback loops. So let's pause there for a second and see if you have any more specific questions on those topics.
Crystal clear, Deborah.
Great.
Yeah, no, it's very clear. I want to know, it's this small circle TT, transition task, transition.
No, that's transition together, and that is a project.
Okay.
Yeah,
the project of the London project.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the UK, so England and Wales specifically. So TN as a UK-based charity 3-4 years ago got funding from the UK National Lottery to help us create a UK hub or regional hubs, because for many years TN has been the default hub for the UK because we're based in the UK, but we weren't really able to offer proper hub services because we're more focused on the international. And so we basically we got some funding to build capacity in the UK movement so that they could start a hub. And this is what they're moving towards now. That funding's now coming to an end at the beginning of next year. It wasn't continued. So, but they've had 3-year grant, and before that a smaller grant to build capacity, and they have network weavers now, and they've been having a lot of events, and they're looking towards the emergence of a new hub or hubs, depending on how the movement want to organise themselves, for England and Wales. And Scotland really already has a hub. They have SCAN.
Yeah, I received the new letters from Transition.
Oh, great. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
so a little bit more than probably you needed, just for anyone else watching. But yeah, that's been a project that we've been basically a fiscal host for, like incubating, so that hub can emerge. Any other
Mel, you have questions, Mel? I'm going to this elder group here.
Well, I was going to ask this, the elder group.
I'm going to the elders. I am an elder in Brazil, but the law in Brazil, I am already an elder.
Yeah. So this is an idea at the moment rather than a reality. And what we did was we made a consent decision to pause for 6 months to get the other operational pieces in flowing properly and working properly before we built this piece, because it would be a new piece completely for us, whereas everything else feels like an evolution of something that already existed. This feels like a new piece. So this was in recognition of the movement being almost 20 years old, and our founders and other elders in the movement not necessarily wanting to be involved in operational or paid operational or administrative, roles anymore, but we miss them, when they move on to other parts of their lives, or work, like Rob with his imagination work, and obviously Sophie and Naresh and Ben and Peter and yourselves and the people that have been hubs reps and leaders in hubs and that have come and been our advisors or been staff members for long periods, whether that's like Sarah or Nicola or, people that have been involved for long and important ways in the past, and trustees that were around for a long time. We just recognize how much knowledge and wisdom and love all these people have for the movement, and we want to find a way for there to be like an elders group that is more advisory, more support, more horizon scanning, more source or history, that can somehow interact or be invited to interact during these 2 consultation anchors during the year. Is there a time when some of those people might come and provide history or advice or perspective, and then we're not sure what else they might want to do. It's like we need to design this whole piece, and we're actually open to ideas from those of you that have been involved in the movement for a long time. What would this group look like? How often might they want to do something, and how might they want to engage? Because it's likely to be a voluntary advisory group of some kind. We don't want it to be a heavy demand on people, but it might also be that it could be a pool of people that could do occasional bits of important paid work based on their skills and experience in the movement, or that they could some of them might want to join the trustees group sometime and be more involved in steering the organization in that more regular way sometimes. So we're open to ideas about it, but we just recognized there is wisdom and love in these other people that have been involved and aren't currently involved, and we want to make a space where they can be involved in some way, because we would benefit from that too.
Yeah, very nice. This is very nice. So many good people that we lost the contact. We lost the possibility of talking and exchanging, and there is the history. This is so important.
Yeah. Would it be worth me saying something about the purpose circle as well, because that's a little bit different than what we were doing in the past? Okay, so when TN was before the Hub's Heart Circle, TN was, the staff of the UK-based legal entity charity that's also then trying to support the hubs and the wider movement. And of course, any legal non-profit entity has to have a board of trustees or board of directors. So you can see the trustees here. We still have to have them. They're great. And originally, when we shifted to shared governance, we wanted the long-term staff and really kind of engaged day-to-day people and the trustees to be more horizontal about making big picture strategy decisions and vision and purpose decisions. We didn't want it to be like in many charities where the trustees or the board are kind of separate and they're making decisions about the charity without the input of the people who are really running the charity and connected with the movement. So when we shifted to shared governance, we made this top circle called a primary circle, where at regular times through the year, the core staff, like staff that have been involved for at least 6 months and are involved over the longer term, with important roles, and the trustees would meet and review strategy and review purpose and vision and values and relational agreements and all this kind of big picture stuff and make decisions together, everyone with equal objection rights. And that was the primary circle. Then the Hub's Heart Circle came about and became professionalized and active and delivering all these important areas of work. And it got really confusing because there was a primary circle over here with TN staff and trustees, and then the Hub's Heart Circle over here also doing strategy work and thinking about the purpose and the vision and the values and everything. And we were like, we need to bring these things together. But then we thought, that's going to be a very big primary circle. And it's hard to do consent-based decision-making with possibly up to 8 trustees. And then the new TNI system that can be maybe another 12 people. That's 20 people to try and do a consent-based decision-making process with 2 or 3 times a year. It's too many. So what happens in sociocracy and holocracy is when you see that a circle that's necessary gets too big, you have to make a smaller circle. So you elect representatives from that whole system to be on the smaller circle. So then we were like, okay, so if a smaller circle are going to make decisions about the purpose, the vision, the mission, and the big picture strategy of TN International, that has to include representatives from staff and trustees and the Hubs group. It needs to be all our important main stakeholders that are holding different perspectives. So that's why you see that we're requesting that the Hubs Assembly elect a representative to be on the TNI purpose circle. So twice a year, we're hoping that a Hubs rep will come and help us do consent decision making about the big picture purpose and values and direction of Transition Network International, because one of our main roles is to be in service, to be a support entity for the Hubs group. So we need your input into the big picture strategy, and we need your voice and your objection rights in that. And then, of course, the trustees, we need a solid representative of them there because they're the legal responsible people, financially and legally. And then we need the TNI, some of the TNI core staff there, the lead links, and maybe 1 or 2 other people to be there because they're making the strategy and they're delivering the strategy and so on. So that's the idea. And maybe someone from the elders group too, once that's up and running, for them to elect a representative as well. So we have like the source and the long history wisdom there. Even if people that have been long members leave, we can still have some of that source founder long history wisdom in the big picture strategy. So that's the kind of aim eventually, is for the purpose circle to be made up of representatives from different parts of the system. And that purpose circle will need to have its first meetings maybe December or January, this coming period, because we're going to have some strategy sessions in November and December. And the idea is that the strategy sessions is where we do the generative, expansive, everyone can be involved in thinking and horizon scanning and reviewing the strategy. And then we're going to make recommendations. And then the purpose circle will take those recommendations, and they're like a tuning group. They'll take the recommendations, they'll create proposals about what are we focusing on this year. And they will present that back to everybody in the consultation circle, including the Hubs reps. And we will give feedback, responses on the proposal, and then they'll go away and make a consent decision process with our feedback. So not all of us will have objection rights anymore on the final decision, but we will all have a consultation process and time to feed back into the proposals. And we'll all have a representative from our system, whether that's the Hubs group and assembly, the TN course, TNI core circle, or the trustees will all have representatives with objection rights in that purpose. This is a consent circle, consent decision-making circle. So it's just another way to try and be both efficient and distributed at the same time. Yeah. Any other questions, or shall I go back to the original questions and see if there were things we didn't answer yet?
You are very clear to me, Deborah.
Oh, good.
That's wonderful, Deborah. Thank you.
I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it for at least a year, so.
Imagine.
The one thing I don't feel I've answered fully yet is both of you recognize that this will make sense as we start to live into it and act within it. And we have, within TNI, we've maybe had 6 months now of kind of gradually get all of the circles on the left operating and figuring out our aims and domains and accountabilities for each circle. And what made that possible is that we had together created a 3-year strategy, which is accessible, you know, it's shareable, you can read it. And from that strategy, we have these kind of main areas like connect, resource, empower, with objectives under each. And then each circle went away and said, which of these objectives are we best placed to deliver in our circle? So then they're creating their own circle strategies. So that's been the process over the last 6 months, making sure we have the right roles, the right people, the right accountabilities in each circle, and that we're starting to deliver those new objectives. Really 2025 in March is when we try and take off with the new strategy, but we're preparing for it and also delivering the final pieces of our current 3-year strategy. And the piece that we haven't really started operationally doing yet is the right-hand side. So the hub's assembly is just forming with the self-assessment process coming to an end. And I believe that the November 19th is the first meeting for the elections of the reps. So that's the first opportunity for the hub's reps to come back into the hub's assembly and do the election. But also, I guess, what we're hoping for from TN International is to start hearing from the hub's assembly or the hub's group. How do you want to act? How often do you want to meet? How do you want to relate with us? Are you going to start having gatherings again online or in person? And is there some support we can offer with that? Yeah, it's like we've created an annual rhythm for ourselves with these 2 strategy periods. And we're inviting you to take part in that. But are you going to have an annual rhythm that you want to invite us to be part of? This kind of thing, you know? So we're curious about that, but that's not up to us. So we just want to make sure there's strong relationships and feedback loops between the 2. So that part of the diagram is open for exploration. And as I said, the TM purpose circle is forming, but it's forming from us and also a little bit from you. So we'll be waiting to add someone from the hub's assembly into that circle. And I think the elders group, we will wait until all of this other stuff is up and running. Like once we know what our relationship is with the hubs group and hubs assembly, and that's clear, and you know it's working, then we can start thinking about adding this additional component of the elders group. And the only things we haven't mentioned on here are these 2 dotted circles. There's an HR decision-making group and a budget decision-making group. And those are like occasional working circles that we've noticed are necessary for important decisions that are very operational. So if we need to change the way that employment rights or salaries are made, we never feel it's very fair for the one human resources person to have to make those decisions on their own, or even to consult with everyone and make it on their own. So we found it's useful to have a couple of operational staff members and a couple of trustees involved in decisions like that to help steward those processes. And the same with big budget decision making. So in the past, the Hub's Heart Circle and TN had different ways of allocating the budget that was available from funding. The Hub's Heart Circle did it all completely collectively, and TN elected a lead link or 2 lead links that would work with the finance team to come up with a proposal and get feedback from the team about that proposal and then make a decision. And we were kind of like, is there a middle ground between these 2 ways? Because one felt too vertical and the other felt like it took a huge amount of everybody's time every year to do it completely collectively. And then people were getting frustrated with that process as well. Some people. and other people enjoyed doing it and were really good at that kind of work. So now, instead of, again, it being 1 or 2 people or everyone, we want it to be a group of 4 or 5 people that does a consultation process. What budgets do people need? What's available? Here are some ideas, proposals, get feedback on that from the lead links and the budget holders and the trustees, and then make a decision. And that, of course, will involve the trustee who's a treasurer, who has the ultimate legal responsibility in the legal entity. It will involve whichever lead link is responsible for financial overview, which is currently myself. It will involve our finance staff person who does all the accounting and bookkeeping and projecting, and because they understand the intricacies of the finances. And it will include at least 1 or 2 other people who are budget holders within the system, so that the system and the operational needs are represented. So we need to create that circle as well, because we're becoming clearer on what our funding will be for next year, and we need to start making some allocations.
Deborah, a question.
Yes.
So the next elections that we will have, it should be only the hub representatives, or, for example, we have here in our hub, we have me, we have Melissa, we have Gabi, we have Zaida. Only the representative should be in this meeting, or this is open to the bigger hubs group, the Brazilian, for example?
That's my understanding. Now, unlike Felipe and Dan, I haven't been involved for many years in the previous elections, but I believe what Felipe said yesterday was that elections are usually held in the hub's assembly, and the hub's assembly is made up of 2 representatives from each hub, because otherwise your election process, if you have 5 people from each hub, you might have a very, very long, complicated election process with everyone nominating and then the opportunity to change your nominations and blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Just to clarify, because it's a lot of information, and just for me not to have the wrong information in my head.
I think the idea of the hub's assembly is it's a smaller subgroup of people that are willing to turn up and do elections and other consent-based decision processes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more regularity.
Okay, I got it. It's a lot of information.
And a lot of it I've just learned myself this year, because in the past, the hub's Heart Circle and Felipe kind of dealt with all of this, and now we're all becoming much more, it's much better, because now I think everyone that was in TN previously, they're not so far away from this. Everyone starts to understand the relationship and support it, and it feels much more coherent. And everyone is now like, I want to know everyone from the hubs, and I'm not just someone that's in the back office doing something in a dark place. I want to be in relationship with the hubs and the hubsters and the hub reps, and to really understand how what I do relates to what they're doing and how I can be in service to that. So I think it's all very good.
And how many hubs do we have now? Do you know?
I think it's 17 or 18. It's less, but they're active.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Melissa,
you raise your hand.
Just to understand, in this circle with the hubs and territory groups, what is going to be the agenda? Do we have an idea of agenda and what we are going to do together?
I think that's going to be up to you. There's things that you've done in the past. I mean, I don't think I am one of the TNI reps. I might be. We're going to have new elections at some point. But now, was it Anaí and you and Felipe that got elected yesterday? So the reps from TNI to the Hubs Assembly are going to be Anaí and Felipe for at least the next meeting. And then we'll have a more full election. But anyway, what I imagine is that you might want to discuss things like how often you want to meet, how you want to be in relationship with us, whether you want to start having meetings and gatherings again, how you want to share resources between hubs. And, like lots of you have been doing interesting training or resource creation or programs. Is there a way that you can support each other with translating interesting resources or trainings that you've developed for your country and other people might want to do and have in their country? So I imagine those sorts of things could be amazing, but that's just my ideas, and you will have your own.
Okay, good.
I can add there also that somehow we have like this double link flow now. On one side, I celebrate the communication circle that has been activated. That is the bridge of communication between the hubs group and the territories with the international scale. So much more things can flow there, and I imagine, and Esther can help more in that. We can signpost and amplify what is happening on the land widely. So this is something that we can support with the social media, with the web pages, etc. And from the cultural transformation circle and the learning and practice, we are delivering things to the hubs. So it's also like a double link of connection, what is needed, so we can support in that needs. And I understand from the infrastructure, they have been for some months or a year supporting the hubs to fundraise for themselves or increase the capacity of fundraising. So all these little circles are in service of the hubs and the territory circle. But what happens within you is your sovereignty. You have the power to take the decisions, and then you need to share through the links. So that is so important. The election that we have on the 19th is the people that are going to bring the voice of the hubs group into the international scale, and we can create together what is needed. Yeah.
And I'm going to invite Esther to maybe say something about this, but one of the ideas that one of the things that would help us a lot is if the hubs can feed us, you know, stories, resources, like things that you're doing in a hub level to tell us about them so that we can then share them at the international level. So it might be sharing a story through comms, and it might be that there's a regular way to do that. Esther has some ideas about comms pollinators. And it might also be, a new resource you made in Reconomy, and it's in Portuguese, but you say, this is so cool and we're using it here in Brazil and it's going really well. Would you guys be interested in sharing it? And we can say, so either you can do that in the hubs assembly, like, should we just share it between hubs? But we'd like to be involved, obviously, because then we can share it with local groups and through the website where there's no hubs. And we can try and make sure it gets to the wider movement where there's not hubs as well. Or we can even help raise money to do the translations for it or to reprint it, or, you know, we can be involved in that support entity way of, okay, there's this cool resource. You have the finances to just deliver it in Brazil. Can we find the finances for it to be available in the other countries as well? So that's the kind of support function that we can do with TNI.
Great, we have good things happening. It's communication is the big knot. Nobody have the time to sit, to write, to translate, to put pictures. The huge work. Melissa is running. I am in the team also. The Regenerative hubs. The hubs business. Vai, Melissa, fala.
Regenerative Business Hub. This is what we are doing right now with the basis of Reconomy. But the idea is getting different people that are working on the regenerative field in different areas of the regenerative field. That they get together and collaborate. You know, people that have similar enterprises or different enterprise, but getting together and collaborate, creating new projects and new kind of support, you know, to other business and to people in general, to us to integrate a kind of regenerative culture in our society, especially in business area. You know, we want to change this idea of business as usual to a kind of business as caring, you know, like caring of everything around us, you know. So this is, we are right now 22 entrepreneurs together, and Isa is one of them. And we have been building this kind of organism, you know, that it's a combination of each of our enterprises, you know, and getting getting to know how to collaborate and how to create things together and how to attend market demands, but through this point of view, you know, through the regenerative point of view. That's what we are doing now.
So amazing. You are
That's
all.
really cool.
Should we show you something? Melissa, a gente pode chamar, mostrar nosso círculo, não vai ter problema.
Let's
Hold
do
on
that just in a moment. Let's hear from Esther in response to what you just said, Mel, and also I have something to say in response to what you both said. And then, yeah, let's see how much time we have left and what we want to do next. So Esther, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, well, I'll try to to mention this quickly because I could be talking for hours, because there's a lot of news and things coming up in the communications realm that you just mentioned, that it's very important, and it's part of how do we build relationships, how do we communicate, how do we catalyze and spread the word around the world and the different communities. So yeah, some announcements that haven't been shared out loud, but that I can anticipate a bit, is that we are actually rebuilding the website. We have the platform active, which hopefully in the future, when the new hubs group is more active, the assembly, the elections take place, will be even more active to have conversations and exchanges there. We're going to have a monthly newsletter that will include stories and events from communities, hubs, everybody at the different levels and scales of the movement, like from the more grassroots local to the more international, and also taking into account the hubs activities. So it's going to be very rich and co-created and populated through the whole system and with everybody. And also, we are right now, we have a lot of things happening. We're about to launch People of Transition campaign. We have one person, Han Yun from China, who will be interviewing people from all around the system and featuring them on Instagram, a specific Instagram account. They will be featured on the website as well. So we will keep connecting and posting things. And we are also about to launch a WhatsApp channel where everybody will be able to go and share their events. So if all the hubs and communities join there, everybody will be able to see on their phones at the same time that they publish. They will be able to see what's going on everywhere and be able to replicate, to translate, to publish in their communities, to connect through them. So we are building and launching more and more ways to build this, to reconnect, to care for these relationships and all this information to be able to flow and arrive. Yeah.
And
Great news.
voices of transition too. So we
Yeah.
also have the Voices of Transition project with 10 different people from around the movement who are being supported to become ambassadors of transition. So it's more than Rob and Felipa trying to run around and do 17 events together, you know, in 1 month. But we have people in different continents and cultures and backgrounds with transition that can be ambassadors and speakers and event leaders. More this, more that kind of inspirational.
Great.
So that's happening right now too. And the Practising Transition campaign has really been going well this year, with events every month and more practices. And some of you watching this might not even know about that because it's on a different website, because we need to overhaul the Transition Network UK charity website that was kind of the central website before. We need to overhaul that to be more for TN International and signpost to the other things happening. Practising Transition is off to one side at the moment, but it's very vibrant, it's very up to date. There are all these resources and webinars about different practices that people have been experimenting with and found to be successful in the area. And as you were talking about the regenerative business group, it made me want to say, please come and do a Practising Transition session on creating a regenerative business group in your locality. That would be a fantastic practice. And that's the kind of thing that we need to hear about, so we can invite you to come and do a practice. And also, so Issa, you said a few minutes ago, one of the problems is to communicate all of the stuff that we're doing so we can share it with the international level.
Yeah.
So one of the problems the international level has is we can't help you with that unless we know that you're doing something cool and you want to share it. And that's all you need to do. If you say, we're doing this regenerative business group, it's got 22 people, we've made resources and we're using Reconomy, it's something that we think other countries could benefit from, and you write like a half page about that, then we can fundraise to pay for the time for you to share that with other countries. Like that's the kind of thing that TNI can do. But we can't appeal to the funders to do a more international level project unless we know that there's a cool thing that's been developed in the movement that it would be great to fund. So then we end up writing to the funders going, people are doing amazing stuff. They're not telling us what it is. So it's hard for us to get money for it. For them to share it more widely. You know?
I got it. And we are doing so many good stuff. We have these two projects, the Reconomy, the Regenerative, and we are going to have a new Collab Jovem, that it's our program for the youth in the favela with the Favela da Paz Institute. And it's going to be amazing. And the young people that have done the two others, they ask, we want to help and build the new program. So they are already in that. It's so amazing, and we need to communicate all this stuff.
One thing that we would love from the Hub's reps is if maybe at the end of each month or each quarter, whichever felt more reasonable and appropriate to you, if you would send us like a half page about each thing you're doing, and then we can and each thing you're doing that you think is replicable or interesting for the international level. And then you see, we can invite you and pay you to come and do a practicing transition session. We can put those half pages into a project application, and then we could get the money for you to have maybe a development fund to share that with other countries.
Great.
But we just need to be fed a little bit of the information so we can spread it to the international level and get resources for that. But you don't have to do all the work. Just tell us what it is, and then we can try and resource it to go to the next more international level.
Great. Me and Melissa are going to be the new representatives. I tried to escape, but I am back. I really tried to escape to be the elder.
He says for the elder circle. I know. You will come there.
But me and Melissa, we are going to write down. Melissa, let's do this.
Yes, wonderful.
Our next meeting, because we meet every week, and we are going to send you, because these are two really amazing projects.
And it would, we would love to know about them and be able to share them in our team and see how we can help them grow.
Yeah. And we have videos from the two other programs. We have videos, we have photos, we have two, como é que é o nome daquilo?
Okay.
Relatórios, 2 reports with the mother and father of the youth telling how they develop and new business that have been created for the youngers. It's amazing. You're going to love it.
I can tell.
Yeah. And I want to also use this moment to share that Isa has been an elder for Latin America, not only for Brazil. And and the movement, the whole movement. And one of the things I learned from Isa is that the movement is about relationships. That if we take care of us and what connect us, we exist. And in that level of conversation, because I super celebrate what you're speaking, and also one of the things that the cultural transformation is going to do next year for you to tell the hubs reps and the hubs assembly is to invite the hubs in pairs to play a game that we're developing that is about cultural transformation, to build relationship with the hubs, because not all the reps know each other. And we want to create like a connection with the hubs assembly and the hubs groups. So we can invite like the 5 people of every hub, or all, whatever, any people of the hub that want to come together in duplas. So every month we're going to invite duplas of hub to meet and play the game. And with this, we keep building relationships. That is what the love that brings us alive. I feel this is so important of what you share always with us. Isa, when the gatherings were happening in person, and I have also the privilege to be with Deborah and Esther this year, when we meet and we cook together, and we sleep in the same place for some days. The level of connection is another, and it lasts for years, even though we don't meet again. But we know, like, the soul of the other is working in the other place of the world. And I think this is also the power of the transition movement, like that we know that we're acting locally, but we are a lot of people doing the same. And maybe coming to the beginning, Debs, like aware of this, that is the challenges that are alive today in the world. It's not so easy to keep going alone. And
Oh, yeah.
I feel, and I have heard so many times, that to keep doing what we have to do, we need to be together. And I so much celebrate the work that I listen that is happening, and what Debs is inviting us, like, let us know, and this for all the hubs and all the initiatives, let us know what is having success there, because we need to be together more than ever, and we need to do better and deeper, so we have the success, and our vision is fulfilled. So yeah, I feel this inspiration, and feel so grateful to be here, and I get a bit emotional because I know that our hearts are so much together, and that now the infrastructure is available for the communication. So yeah, thank you, thank you,
Wow.
thank you.
I'm so looking forward for a personal gathering again with everybody. And I will hug you, Anaí. Eu vou te abraçar, Anaí.
Find a way that we can all come on sailing ships.
Yeah, let's do an international conference again. We need this to connect people. We need, and each of us pay for the passage. You see, just find a big park and we can picnic together. We need to get together.
It's challenging with the whole flying thing, but maybe we could agree that it's just once every certain number of years, you know, so that we have like a touch point, and that we try and do some, offsetting in some way. But yes, it would be good to, even if it was once every 5 years, to know that we come together and give each other hugs in real life. And then we maybe have an online one in between where we play games and dance together and do these things that as the best we can remotely. One of the things we're doing at TN as well is we're trying to have, TNI now, is to have a small pot of money for if a colleague is coming nearby for another reason, you know, like Dawn with his book tour, or Anaï with the training she was doing in Europe, to have a little bit of extra money to say, why don't you add an extra train journey and come and stay with your colleague who's one city away, or, you know, just to kind of help people meet up occasionally as well.
Oh, you just lost Melissa. Melissa was in UK with the
Oh
family.
no!
Oh, he went to Scotland. He was in the Reconomy gathering. Just lost Melissa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our
For next
powerful.
time. And I think also, Debs, that we could support organization of bioregional gatherings.
Yes.
That is not so like high in cost ecologically and financially, but it's so important that the bioregions organize, like the Aviala now and the Germaphone and like these other kind of language territories. That is also a barrier that is a challenge, and we are working for that. We have a new role on language justice that will support also these pollinators group that the COMS is developing. And probably in this WhatsApp chat, we will have channels in different languages, so we can be all together and speaking in the different languages. So Brazil and Portugal can collaborate a lot. That there is not a space now for this conversation, for example. And Canada with France and Belgium, like there are territories that are language based and territories that are like ecologically based. So all these bioregions can have different types and ways of collaboration. And I believe the international scale is to support the connection, the network between all these good things happening.
Yeah, this is something else I would love the TNI and Hubs Assembly teams to have a little bit more training on, which is like, what is the best way that we can support this network? You know, do we need to what's the design? How do we become good designers of a network and good stewards or facilitators of a network? Because I feel like we just discussed some really good ideas. Like we could have an everyone together gathering once every 5 or 10 years. We could have bi-regional gatherings every 3 years, and we could have an online gathering the years in between or something like that. And then what are the feedback loops that need to be in place, and the pollinators and the weavers? And I don't feel like I have a lot of training in this network kind of how to be part of a network, and how each part of us, whether we're a hubs rep or a TNI person or a local group or a trustee, like what's our role in that network to help it be strong and thrive. I feel like it would be so cool there are people that really are experts in this, and one of them used to be one of our trustees, Peter Lafour, and I went to a webinar he did last night with the UK movement about what's a movement, and in 2 weeks he's doing another one, what's a network. And there was also Civic Square were there, Imi from Civic Square, and she was amazing too, and one of the network weavers from the TT group, and they're going to individual groups, the network weavers, and talking to them in their places, because we know that that's important.